The alarm screamed before Jiren even reached the palace gates. Red lights spun across the golden walls, casting the hallways in frantic flashes. He had never worked in a place like this. A human plumber hired for repairs, now running toward chaos he could barely understand. The air was thick with the scent of ozone and something else, something faintly metallic that made his skin prickle. Jiren. Hurry, a voice called, sharp and trembling. He saw a small aide clutching a data pad, eyes wide with panic. The princess, she's gone silent. The Empress, she's begging, no one can reach her. Jiren didn't wait for explanation. His boots pounded the marble floor as he followed the aide through a hallway that shivered under constant tremors. The palace walls groaned like living creatures, and every step made the tiles quiver beneath him. He had faced floods, collapsing pipes and pressure bursts before, but never anything like this. He burst into the throne room. The scene hit him like a blow. The Empress knelt on the floor, golden robes torn and dirted from the quake. In her arms was her daughter, eyes closed, body trembling. No sound came from her mouth. Around them, palace guards and technicians scrambled, shouting orders and making frantic adjustments to floating devices that hummed with alien energy. The child, she's not breathing properly, one engineer shouted. Another gestured to a strange, liquid-like creature, half-transparent, hovering around the girl. It shimmered with shifting colors, stretching tendrils that intertwined with the child's arms and shoulders. It reacts to us. We can't touch it. Jiren's heart beat faster. He had seen strange plumbing challenges before, but this was alive, intelligent, unpredictable. Most humans would freeze. He didn't. Step back, he said calmly, though his pulse raced. He scanned the creature, noting its pulsating veins of light, the way it seemed to pulse in rhythm with the child's heartbeat. It's not attacking, he said. It's connected. The Empress looked at him, eyes glistening. Make her speak again, Jiren. Please. I will give you anything, anything. Her voice broke, desperation pouring into every word. Do not fail us. Jiren swallowed. He wasn't royalty. He wasn't a trained healer or a diplomat. But he knew pressure, flow, and improvisation. If he hesitated, the child might slip into silence forever. Show me the interfaces, he said, stepping closer. The engineers pointed to a series of glowing panels floating around the creature. Energy cables and neural conduits extended into the girl. Jiren knelt and examined them quickly, trying to trace the source. The connections were chaotic, alien, but he caught patterns in the glow, tiny pulses he could redirect. Then the palace trembled again. This time it wasn't just the quake. The creature recoiled violently, translucent spikes erupting from its body, narrowly missing Jiren's face. He ducked instinctively, heart hammering. The child shuddered, silent tears rolling down her cheeks. Focus, he muttered to himself. He pulled a wrench-like tool from his kit, rigged with makeshift conduits he had cobbled together for emergencies. With careful precision, he redirected a faint current from one of the glowing tendrils, trying not to harm the creature, or the girl. A faint sound came. A single breath, wheezing but alive. The Empress gasped, clinging to hope. Jiren's eyes narrowed. It's responding. One more adjustment and we might get a word out. The creature pulsed again and Jiren realized something impossible. It wasn't just attached, it was protecting her. Its tendrils quivered as if in warning. Any wrong move could hurt the child. He took a deep breath and moved his hand with delicate care, rerouting a cable while whispering reassurance to the creature. A soft, almost inaudible voice escaped the girl. Mom? Her eyes fluttered open and for a moment the room froze. The Empress wept openly, pressing her face against her daughter's. Jiren allowed himself a tiny nod. A small victory, but he knew the danger wasn't over. Suddenly the palace shuddered violently more than before. Cracks appeared in the walls. The gravity shifted in sharp waves, sending the floating devices spinning, striking the floor and narrowly missing Jiren. The creature shrieked, a sound like a chorus of chimes, and retreated, pulling the girl's arms toward the nearest wall as if to shield her. Jiren's stomach dropped. This was no accident. Something, or someone, was destabilizing the palace. He glanced at the Empress, her pleading eyes now filled with fear, and knew the next step would require more than skill. It would require courage, quick thinking, and trust in the impossible. He straightened, heart racing, gaze fixed on the shimmering creature and the trembling child. All right, he said under his breath, gripping his tool. Let's see how far a human can go. Before he could take another step, a massive pulse of energy erupted from the palace core, knocking him backward and throwing the room into chaos. The child's voice went silent again. The Empress screamed. Jiren landed on the marble floor, scrambling to rise. And above the din, the creature's glow twisted into a pattern he didn't understand, an urgent, flashing warning. Something was coming. Something bigger than the palace, bigger than the creature, and Jiren had no idea if anyone, or anything, would survive the next moment. The pulse slammed through the palace like a hammer, shaking the walls and tossing floating devices across the floor. Jiren grabbed a support beam, steadying himself, eyes locked on the trembling child. The creature clung to her, translucent spikes quivering as if bracing for impact. Dust fell from the ceiling, and a low hum vibrated through the marble floor. Something big was coming, and it wasn't waiting for anyone. "Jiren," the Empress cried, her voice cracking. "You must do something. Don't let her fall silent again." He didn't answer. He couldn't. His mind raced, scanning the alien conduits, the glowing tendrils, the pulse patterns from the creature. He had seconds to act or fail. "All right," he muttered, kneeling beside the child. "We need to stabilize her neural link. The creature isn't the enemy, it's trying to protect her." One of the palace engineers shouted, waving his hands. "It's too complex. Nothing we do works, touch it and she dies." Jiren ignored him. Complexity didn't scare him, danger sharpened him. Using his hands, he traced the glowing tendrils, noting the rhythm in their pulses. Every spike, every shimmer was a signal, not a threat. He grabbed his improvised tool, a hybrid of human wiring and alien energy conduits, and gently rerouted a current. A spark shot along the cable and the creature flinched, hissing like wind through crystal. The child's chest rose and fell with more stability. A faint cough escaped her lips. A tiny victory, but enough to make the Empress's eyes shine with hope. Then came the saboteur. A figure in dark armor slipped through a side corridor, holding a small device that hummed with dangerous energy. In one swift motion, he aimed it at the creature. Jiren's stomach dropped. "No!" he shouted, leaping forward. The device emitted a pulse that made the creature recoil violently. Tendrils whipped through the air, slamming against walls and screens. The child screamed, a sound broken and terrified. Jiren shielded her with his body, wrenching his tool between him and the device. Sparks flew, cables cracked, and energy arcs danced across the floor. He had no choice. Improvising, he slammed his tool into the floor, creating a makeshift energy diversion. The pulse deflected harmlessly into a floating conduit. The saboteur cursed, retreating into the shadows. The creature calmed slightly, but its tendrils still glimmered with defensive energy. "Good," Jiren muttered, panting. He looked at the child, her lips moved, whispering fragments of words. "I can hear you." Her voice was weak, barely a breath. The Empress clutched her hands over her mouth, tears streaking her cheeks. One word. One step closer. But the pulse had caused secondary damage. The alien conduits feeding the child were misfiring. Lights flickered, arcs of energy zipping through the palace air. Another tremor shook the walls, stronger than before. Jiren's mind raced. He needed a plan, and fast. He crawled to a nearby control panel, scanning for circuits he could reroute. His fingers flew over alien symbols, translating the glowing script into patterns he could manipulate. "If I can synchronize these pulses with the creature's rhythm, we might stabilize her temporarily," he thought. It was risky. One wrong move could sever the link entirely. The creature noticed. It surged forward, tentacles brushing Jiren's arms, its glow intense. Instead of attacking, it seemed curious, testing him. Jiren spoke softly. "I'm not here to hurt you. Help me help her." He touched one of its shimmering tendrils gently. The creature recoiled briefly, then relaxed. Trust, fragile and dangerous, began to form. He rerouted the energy, manually aligning it with the creature's pulses. Sparks shot, but the child's breathing evened. Her eyes blinked open slightly, a flicker of life returning. Jiren exhaled. Another small victory. One more adjustment and maybe, just maybe, she could speak again. But then the palace shook violently. Dust and debris rained down. The floating devices went berserk, spinning and colliding with walls. The creature shrieked in panic. Jiren grabbed the child's arm, pulling her to safety. He rolled as a shard of alien crystal skittered across the floor, narrowly missing her head. "Focus, Jiren," the Empress shouted. "You can save her." He nodded grimly, adrenaline surging. Every instinct, every skill he'd learned in human repair work, now applied to an alien problem far beyond his training. He didn't hesitate. He connected the final conduit, bridging the human tool with the alien creature's energy pulses. A soft hum filled the room. The child's chest rose steadily, a weak giggle escaping her lips. The Empress gasped. She's laughing? Yes, Jiren said, sweat dripping from his brow. A little. She's responding. Keep her calm. But the palace was still unstable. A new tremor shook the floor beneath them. Panels cracked, sparks flew, and the creature twisted unnaturally, trying to shield the girl. Then, without warning, a shadow moved in the doorway, larger, faster, more threatening than the previous saboteur. Its silhouette radiated energy pulses that made the room vibrate. Jiren froze. The child clung to him instinctively, eyes wide. The creature's glow flared violently, warning. Whatever this was, it wasn't here to negotiate. The human plumber, heart pounding, gritted his teeth. He had saved her once, but now the real test was arriving. And in that moment, the air cracked with a sharp alien resonance, as if the palace itself was screaming. The danger had only just begun. The shadow in the doorway wasn't human. Jiren could feel it in his bones before he even saw it clearly. Its presence warped the air, a shimmer of light bending around its shape. The creature protecting the child hissed, retracting its tendrils into a defensive coil. The child clutched Jiren's arm, trembling, eyes wide as saucers. Jiren's mind raced. He had dealt with alien machines, rogue devices, and even toxic energy flows, but this was something alive. Something intelligent. Something that could end them in an instant. The figure stepped forward. Its body was armored in sleek, organic plates that glimmered like liquid metal. No face, just a smooth surface that reflected the chaotic lights of the palace. It moved with confidence, deliberate, as if it had been waiting for this moment. Each step caused the floor to vibrate. Who are you? Jiren shouted, gripping his tool like a weapon. He could feel the child's small hands pressing into his side, weak but desperate for safety. The shadow paused. Then a deep vibration filled the room, not sound exactly, but a resonance that rattled bones. The creature, the one intertwined with the child, glowed brighter, flaring across the room like a warning. It surged toward the intruder, forming spikes, but Jiren held it back with his hand, whispering urgently. Wait, listen. I think it's trying to communicate. The resonance shifted, rhythmic, almost musical. Jiren tilted his head. His pulse quickened as he realized the truth. The intruder wasn't attacking randomly. It was probing the child, trying to understand her connection to the creature. Every move it made was precise. Every vibration seemed intentional. Jiren's brain raced. If he could interpret this pattern, he could guide the creature and the child safely. Using his tool, he touched one of the glowing conduits and manually linked it to the creature's pulses. Sparks flew, energy arcs dancing across the room. The child's eyes flickered as the pulses aligned, and then, something impossible happened. The creature extended a tendril toward the shadow, but instead of striking, it touched it lightly. A ripple of light passed through the intruder, and the shadow froze, tilting slightly as if startled. Jiren realized it was learning. It was cautious, calculating, curious. All right, he muttered, voice low. Let's see what you want. He tapped the conduit again, syncing it with the shadow's energy pulses. Slowly the figure's movements changed. The aggressive posture softened. It hovered, observing, almost waiting. The child's voice, weak but clear, whispered a single word, friend. Jiren froze. The creature twitched, then relaxed slightly. Could it be? Was the intruder not an enemy but something that could help? The Empress's voice trembled behind him. Do you know what it is? I think it's a guardian, Jiren replied cautiously. Something that shouldn't have been here yet. It might have been drawn by the child's silence. The child's lips formed another sound, a stammered attempt at a name. The creature pulsed in rhythm with her, and Jiren understood immediately. The shadow was responding to her neural energy. The silence had been a protective lock. She had been shielding herself, and now the intruder was recognizing her as special. Then a loud crash from the palace core shook the floor again. Sparks flew, panels cracked. The shadow recoiled instantly, sending energy waves across the room. Jiren's eyes narrowed. It wasn't hostile, but it could be dangerous. One wrong move and the palace would collapse. He had to act fast. Using the tool, he extended the energy flow between the child, the creature, and the intruder, creating a delicate bridge. His palms sweated as he adjusted the pulses, his mind calculating timing and flow. The child whimpered, but he held her close. We can do this, he whispered. A flicker of light ran from the creature to the intruder. The shadow tilted its form, almost bowing slightly. And then, astonishingly, It projected a faint holographic image above the child, a map of swirling alien currents showing weak points in the palace energy flow. Jiren's jaw dropped. This thing, it's showing me the danger, he said. It wants to help. He didn't hesitate. Following the projected map, he rerouted unstable conduits, redirecting energy away from the child and stabilizing the palace's core. Sparks flew, panels hissed, but the system held. The child coughed, blinking at him, a small, grateful smile forming. The creature hummed softly, retracting its spikes, and the shadow pulsed lightly in response. The Empress wept openly. You've saved her. You've saved us. Jiren shook his head. Not yet. This is just the start. He glanced at the intruder. It lingered, watching, glowing faintly. Whatever it was, it had chosen to help, for now. But Jiren's gut told him the bigger challenge wasn't over. As he breathed, trying to steady himself, he noticed movement near the palace ceiling. Small shadows skittering across the walls, faster than anything he had seen. The intruder stiffened, pulsing with tension. The creature hissed again. Something else was coming. Something that even the shadow didn't fully understand. Jiren swallowed hard, gripping his tool tighter. All right, he muttered under his breath. Let's see what humans are really capable of. The palace trembled again. Sparks rained. The child's voice echoed faintly, help. And above it all, a new, unseen force pressed closer, bending the very light around them. The game had changed. The palace shuddered like it was alive, groaning under forces Jiren could barely comprehend. Sparks leapt from fractured panels, and a low hum of energy thrummed in his chest. The shadow intruder floated near the child, tendrils of light dancing across its sleek, liquid metal surface. But Jiren knew it wouldn't last. The real threat had arrived. From the palace core, a wave of energy surged outward, warping the air like a heat haze. The walls bent under pressure, golden marble splitting in sharp fissures. The creature entwined with the child hissed in alarm, and the child's lips trembled with a single word, danger. Jiren gritted his teeth, gripping his improvised tool. He had saved her once, stabilized the palace once, bridged an impossible gap between human and alien, but now the impossible was larger, faster, and far more deadly. He glanced at the shadow. It pulsed in warning, but its movements betrayed confusion. Whatever this wave was, it didn't fully understand it either. That meant the burden fell on him. Only he could act decisively. Only a human could think fast enough to bridge the chaos. Stay close, he muttered to the child, his voice firm. I'm not letting anything happen to you. The wave surged again, bending gravity and energy flows. Panels tore from walls and floated in a dangerous swirl, sparks igniting in the air. Jiren dove forward, pressing his body against the child to shield her from flying debris. The creature coiled protectively, its translucent spikes folding into soft tendrils. He had seconds to act. He needed to stabilize the palace core manually. The tool in his hand wasn't designed for alien energy, but he had rigged it once before. If he could redirect the core's unstable pulses into the creature, it might absorb the energy long enough to buy time. Focus, he whispered, sweating as he approached the quivering core. The shadow intruder surged closer, communicating through pulses. Its energy mapped the safest path, but it was risky. Any misalignment and the child could be electrocuted instantly. Jiren clenched his jaw. I don't have a choice. He plunged the tool into the core, sparks flying, arcs of energy dancing dangerously close to his arms. Pain shot through his hands as alien currents licked at his skin. He gritted his teeth and pressed forward, syncing pulses with the creature, whispering encouragement. The child's eyes widened in fear, but she clutched his shoulder, trusting him. Her voice trembled, "Do it, please?" Jiren's heart hammered. He adjusted the conduit, rerouted the flow, and the creature flared in a dazzling display of light, absorbing the unstable energy. The palace groaned, shaking violently, but the pulse wave slowed, losing its destructive momentum. One small victory, but the battle wasn't over. A deafening crack split the room. A massive panel fell from above, threatening to crush them. Without thinking, Jiren grabbed the child and rolled, narrowly avoiding disaster. Sparks rained around them. The Empress's voice pierced the chaos. Jiren, you're killing yourself. I'm keeping her alive, he shouted back, wrenching another conduit into place. The creature's glow pulsed rapidly, interfacing fully with his makeshift system. The child coughed, then cried out, a real sound this time, full, terrified, and alive. Suddenly, the shadow intruder shot forward, colliding with a wave of unstable energy. It absorbed part of the pulse, shielding the child further, but the strain twisted it violently. The creature hissed, tendrils whipping as if warning Jiren of impending collapse. He had one move left. One impossibly dangerous move. He leaped toward the palace core itself, tool in hand, guiding the creature's energy directly into the stabilizing node. Sparks danced across his face. The core shuddered violently, panels cracking, energy arcs snapping like lightning. Now! Jiren yelled, connecting the final conduit. A blinding surge shot through the room. The creature and shadow pulsed in perfect sync with the child's neural rhythm. Energy dispersed in controlled waves. The palace tremor faded. Sparks hissed out. The danger slowed to a whisper. The child gasped, then cried, words tumbling from her lips. Mom! The Empress fell to her knees, sobbing, cradling her daughter as tears streaked down her face. Jiren slumped, bruised, scorched and trembling, but alive. For a long moment the room was still. The creature hovered over the child, protective, calm. The shadow intruder drifted near, its form pulsing gently, almost respectful. Jiren wiped sweat and soot from his face, shaking from adrenaline. He had defied the impossible, saved a life, stabilized alien systems, and survived where no one else could. But then a low, resonant hum filled the air again, different from before. The walls vibrated, faint cracks spreading rapidly along the golden marble. The shadow intruder stiffened, pulsing with alarm. The creature hissed softly, its tendrils twitching nervously. Jiren's stomach turned. Not again, he muttered. He realized the waves weren't random, they were a signal. Something out there, far larger than the palace, was coming. A force beyond comprehension, drawn by the child's bond with the alien creature. The Empress, clutching her daughter, looked at him with wide, fearful eyes. Jiren, what now? He glanced at the shadow, then the creature, then at the trembling child. He knew the answer. We fight, he said, voice low but steady. Humans don't give up. Not when it's impossible. Not when someone's life is at stake. The palace trembled again, a distant rumble echoing like a drumbeat from the heavens. Sparks flew and the child cried out, gripping his arm tightly. Jiren squared his shoulders, gripping his tool. And through the chaos, a massive, unseen presence loomed outside the palace walls, bending light and air, watching. Its arrival promised destruction, but also a test of courage and ingenuity, something only a human could face. Jiren's eyes narrowed. He had survived the impossible so far. Now the real test was here. The palace was scarred but standing. Dust and rubble littered the golden floor, smoke curling in thin, ghostly streams. Jiren sank to his knees, muscles trembling from adrenaline and exhaustion. The child clung to him, small hands gripping his arm, eyes wide but alive. The creature hovered above her, glowing softly, calm now, as if recognizing the human's bravery. The Empress knelt beside her daughter, cradling her in tears. You saved her, she whispered, voice breaking with relief and disbelief. No one else could have. No one. Jiren shook his head, still catching his breath. It wasn't just me, he said. He looked at the creature, at the shadow intruder, and then back at the child. We did it together. She's alive because everyone here helped, even the impossible. The child blinked up at him, her small voice clear for the first time since the crisis began. Thank you, she murmured. Her lips curved into a tentative smile. Jiren allowed himself a small, tired grin. That one simple gesture, her voice, her trust, was worth every risk. The Empress pressed her daughter to her chest. I will never forget this. You've proven what humans can do, Jiren. Bravery, cleverness, heart, no one else could have done this. She pulled him to his feet, eyes shining. You have our loyalty, our gratitude, everything we can offer. Jiren didn't feel like celebrating. The palace was damaged, the air still shimmered with alien energy, and something bigger than the palace loomed outside beyond their sight. But he had survived. And the child had survived. That was enough for now. The creature extended a tendril to the child and touched her gently, a soft pulse running through its form. The child giggled softly, reaching out to touch it. Hello, she whispered. The creature quivered in response, forming intricate shapes of light around her, harmless now, almost playful. Jiren watched in awe. He had seen fearsome power, but he had never seen such intelligence, such instinctive protection. The shadow intruder hovered nearby, pulsing softly. Its form had softened since the climax, no longer aggressive. Jiren realized it had chosen to aid, not harm. Whatever it was, guardian, sentinel, or something more, it respected human courage. He nodded to it quietly. Respect, mutual and unspoken, had formed in the heat of chaos. Can we stabilize the palace fully? The Empress asked, glancing nervously at the cracked walls and sparking panels. Yes, Jiren said. He exhaled slowly. It'll take time, but we've made it safe enough for now. I just hope the larger threat hasn't started moving closer yet. The Empress frowned. What do you mean? Jiren glanced at the horizon, through broken palace windows. Beyond the golden spires, a subtle shimmer bent the starlight in impossible ways. His stomach clenched. There's something out there. Something bigger. It's drawn to the child. The creature, even the shadow intruder noticed it. This wasn't random. This is just the beginning. The child tilted her head, curiosity in her eyes despite exhaustion. What is it? She asked. Jiren knelt beside her again, careful not to frighten her. Something we'll have to face. But whatever it is, humans don't give up. We find a way. We fight, we adapt, and we survive. That's what makes us human. A faint, distant rumble echoed across the palace, almost imperceptible. The creature's glow pulsed faster. Even the shadow intruder stiffened. Jiren stood, brushing dust from his clothes, and looked at the Empress. Your daughter is safe, he said firmly. That's the most important thing. Everything else, we'll deal with together. She studied him for a long moment. You've proven what humans can do. Against impossible odds, against creatures no one understands, you saved her. And maybe, saved more than just her. The child reached out for his hand. Jiren took it, squeezing gently. Courage, empathy, intelligence. These had carried them through the impossible, and he knew it wouldn't stop here. Humans always find a way. The palace tremor faded completely, but the horizon remained strange. Shadows danced across the stars, twisting light unnaturally. Whatever force had come for the child was still out there, waiting, testing, observing. Jiren's gut told him it would return, and when it did, the stakes would be higher. The Empress finally smiled through her tears. You are part of our world now, Jiren. If this threat returns, you will not face it alone. Jiren nodded, exhaustion heavy but resolve heavier. I know. And we'll be ready. Humans, we shine when it matters most. The creature pulsed one last time, soft and calm. The child laughed quietly, a sound full of life, and the shadow intruder drifted closer, as if joining the quiet celebration. For the first time in hours, the palace felt safe. And yet, in the distance, bending the starlight, a new shimmer appeared. Larger. Deeper. Watching. Waiting. Jiren's eyes narrowed, fists clenched around his tool. Whatever came next, humans would meet it head-on. Courage, ingenuity, and determination would guide them. Always. Let's get ready, he whispered to the child. The impossible is never finished.